Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Football Uncensored podcast. I'm here, as always, with none other than the man, Mr. Legend, John Sitton. This is episode 10 and a half. What was the rhyme? I forgot it, John.
Well, it's 10 and a half to make you laugh.
10 and a half to make you laugh. My memory is so bad.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I'm laughing
Hopefully.
already, so you make me laugh.
Well, I'll tell you what we were just saying earlier, Joe, when you made the quick call, the way I want to approach these type of things, even when I'm there with Don and Alan, and obviously I'll get to say more on my own with yourself because you like the touch paper. But what I hope is it's like a few things. You would have seen it here first or heard it here first, going way back when, on my Twitter at the Real Sits, or with Alan and Don on their pub talk thing, and then with me, Alan and Don on the Uncensored podcast. Stuff along the lines of when we spoke about Grealish beating the drum for him, etc. Sheffield United, could it be second season syndrome? I like to think that, and it's the way I approach things with regards to coaching. If someone watches it, be it a player, the parent of a player, a coach or manager at any level, if they take something away from it, if they take just one thing away from it, then it's mission accomplished.
Yeah,
we might have made them aware of something that they might not, because no one's all over everything, despite what they might think or say. But
that's a good point, and I think what we're trying to do is, and obviously with the main attraction podcast, which is kind of in hibernation because of lockdown, with the three of you, but it's trying to get under the surface a little bit and show insight that people just won't get anywhere else, and hopefully that's what's coming through loud and clear, and that's the idea of it. And as I say, as always, we really do want to hear from followers and those that are subscribing to the YouTube channel to feed in with questions and stuff that you want asked, because I find it fascinating, because I'm a football fan. I look at it from the outside, so the ability to ask questions that I've never heard anyone ever ask, or players ever talk about, or ex-pros ever talk about. So that's what I think should be got out of it.
Yeah, we've all been in the dressing room. Me, Don and Alan, we've all sat there looking up at a coach or a manager. I've been on the other side where I've had players sitting up and looking at me as a coach or a manager, or mismanager, depending on your interpretation. It's like I keep saying, there's a difference between opinion and informed opinion. Everybody's got an opinion on the game, and most people are experts at 4:45 when it's all over. We've sort of we've been there. I like to think it's an informed opinion on all sides of the game.
Definitely. All right. Well, speaking of the games, last weekend again seemed to follow a relatively similar pattern. Interesting at the top of the tables, all very tight. Some of the big sides are sort of languishing in mid-table. Man City 13th, which is kind of crazy, really. Pep's got a 2-year deal. But Chelsea, and Tottenham playing well. Chelsea cruised to a 2-0 victory against Newcastle.
Yeah.
6th clean sheet in 7, which is a good sign. What was your thoughts on that game and Chelsea in general?
Really, it's funny the way they're playing. It's funny how people thought they might trip up there. I never did. I was quite positive about it on Twitter pre-match. That would have gone down as one of my aways. I thought it was a good weekend to 1 or 2 bets. I think probably what would have let me down would have been, which no doubt you'll come to, would have been City, to try and lengthen the odds. But it's coincidental that when we were talking before Don and Alan departed for Gran Canaria, I think it was quite a large part of one of the podcasts attributed to Chelsea, to Frank, I actually spoke up about, I liked his defiance and his truculence during interviews, and it's a work in progress, and we've got to ingratiate like 5-6 players or however many they signed, and it takes time to get it right. And I did say that hopefully he gets it right sooner rather than later, and you get both ends of the football field right, then you're in business. You know what I mean? You've got a chance. And what seems to have happened is the couple of games where they struggled at the back slightly. That seems to have been ironed out. They look better drilled. They look more comfortable. There's better communication. I think although he never played at the weekend, I thought but he's definitely, without a doubt, he's brought a presence to it. And he seems to have boosted the younger players in confidence-wise. I think over a period of years, I'm a little bit biased because I've always liked him in terms of he's very efficient. Azpilicueta, up until they've had a blip, I think he's probably, since he entered the Premier League, he's probably been one of the most consistent defenders in the Premier League in his duration at Chelsea. And I think it bodes well because whoever does get it sorted, there is such an open division, Joe. It's such a crazy year. I just think whoever gets it sorted, they're in with a great chance of winning the Premier League itself. Yeah, so we're really delighted with the way they. The first one was a little bit lucky, but you like the cliche, you make your own luck. You look at it, everyone when the delivery was coming in, when you're coaching and you sort of put players in positions in terms of the runs they make, and then when you go live really for like a delivery. There's a much used phrase which was like you've got to help flood the box. When you look at how far up he was, Chilwell caused the error from the own goal, and then obviously Newcastle got to come out and play Chelsea, and Chelsea done them on the break. And I think actually Chelsea were outnumbered 3v5 when Tammy finished it, but Timo showed great awareness, great pace, very unselfish, very professional. The way he set Tammy up, and a great finish from Tammy to make it 2-0. It probably could have scored three or four, maybe even 5.
I mean, Newcastle looked very poor to me. That's a worrying performance, I thought. So I was going to actually ask you, although you may have already answered it, did you think the result flattered Chelsea because Newcastle were poor, or was it just because Chelsea are just a different grade above? And I guess the second part to that question is, based on your answer, how well do you think they'll fare next Sunday, the big game, Chelsea-Spurs?
I think I think it's the latter. I think Chelsea were a class above rather than the former. I thought Chelsea were a class above, and I've played in games like that, and when you're at a club like that, it's a sense, it's a feeling. As you look around your teammates and you just think like, dotted all over the football field, we're better than these. Even back to the youth team days, football combination. Unfortunately, it didn't happen at first team level for me, but you can tell the feeling that was there. And I thought Chelsea were very much a class above Newcastle. The flip side of that is I'm not being biased because he's an ex-teammate, but it's like Bruce is in the same boat to a degree as Dyche. He's in the same boat to a degree. Scotty Parker is clearing up a mess, but most certainly people like Sean Dyche, Chris Wilder, who I'm very much a fan of. You can't keep expecting these managers to pull in rabbits out of hats, and performing miracles. And so it's going to be might be a long old winter for the likes of Newcastle, but they scraped by last year and they went on a nice decent little run. And where Chelsea are concerned, Joe, I just think like, you know what? I'm loath to say it. It could be Sunday's game could be maybe a decider for who ends up top London club, and whoever ends up top London club and gives the others a run for their money. Like I know you said about City being 13th, but they'll pick up, I think, like the Liverpools and the likes of them, a run. Whoever finishes above them will win the league. So I think it's just like at the moment it's a wait and see situation, but most certainly someone will is going to come out of it with bragging rights after Sunday. Yeah, but I mean I fancy Chelsea at the Bridge.
Yeah. I was good. Well, let's talk about Spurs then, because then you can provide a bit of an analysis on the comparison really between Chelsea and Spurs, because I thought it was a phenomenal display from Spurs against Man City. Completely tactical genius, really. I think from Mourinho, kind of back to he's got that bit between his teeth. It seems to me, which is dangerous for the rest of the league. So it'd be interesting to know what your thoughts were on the way Tottenham approached the game and won relatively comfortably.
I'll stick by what I said. I fancy him for one of the cups. I fancy him for maybe two. I fancy him League Cup and Europa League. I don't think they can stay the course. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. I don't know. It's all open to opinion, conjecture. But most certainly he's added, they look more steely. They look more resilient. They look more drilled. They look more organised. I can't quite fathom out. He done a thing. I was watching a couple of documentaries, and there's one of them. He says, Jose says, I don't coach players, I coach teams. Well, I'm struggling to work out how you can do one without doing the other. From the Spurs point of view, yeah, all positives. But then, if I look at it, if I'm going to be ultra critical, I thought Manchester City were appalling. I thought it was like schoolboy errors again at the back. You're looking when you're coaching forward with regards to combination play. That's what we would call a split run, where one comes short and one goes long. It's called a split run. You've got crossover runs, you've got split runs, you've got bend runs, etc. This was a split run, albeit it was slightly angled as Harry's come short. Now, what I mean by schoolboy error, as Harry's come short, you've got to basically very, very quickly, like milliseconds, you've got to assess where you are in relation to the ball and your nearest opponent and the danger, which is obviously the goal. Both players followed Harry's short. And then once Son got a march on the left-sided defender, he made an angled run inside him, and then it was one simple ball that missed Harry out over the top of the two centre-backs for Son to make the angled run, get on the end of it, and slot. I thought it was diabolical. You know what I mean? What if I'm playing with you and he goes short, even if he's playing between you? I'll scream at you like, I've got the ball. Yeah. As in if it's punched in there, I'm going to go in tight and make sure he can't turn, like he's been doing recently, Harry, as a number 10. Or Joe, get tight, and then what I'll do, I'll drop off.
Yeah,
and then
exactly. Both.
I'm covering you, and I'm covering any runs that are made from wide outside to in, what we could call a little run outside to in, like little angled run. And I thought really it was shocking for that level. So despite, Don talks about it, Alan talks about it, it looks like a lot of work's got to be done on the training field, because despite he went out and spent 64 million on a centre-back?
Yeah, he did. And it's funny because it doesn't seem to matter who he plonks in that position, they still seem leaky and they still don't seem a solid unit. You've got, obviously John Stones is nowhere near the first team, and he's been criticised for making mistakes and stuff. But it seems like there's a long line of centre halves that have been making mistakes in Man City. Is that personnel, as you say, or is that coaching? It sort of would be very coincidental if it was all personnel, given how much they're worth.
Well, when they're talking about in inverted commas world-class coaches from Europe, this one from Spain. Others they're talking about from Germany. Others they're talking about from Argentina. You've got to get both ends of the field right.
Yeah.
And then the excuse before was they were scoring goals for fun, but the excuse before was we're missing company. This year, getting excuses ready in advance. We're missing. We'll miss Silva.
They're struggling Fernandinho as well. They say, yeah.
Well, so they're talking about struggling to replace these players. And then he signed, penned a 2-year deal. I was reading the article today. I don't want to leave me friends. From the minute I walked in the door, I was made to feel at home, and I'm among friends. The Tiki geezer and somebody else who's director of
Barcelona, football. Isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, all the little entourage. You know what I mean? If you're spending conservative estimate, £250 million on whatever interpretation of a back four you want, there's got to be a steward's inquiry, I think. You know what I mean? And the bottom line is it needs to be sorted out. And I agree. You know, there's certain players you think, well, is he the answer? I agree with Roy Keane. You know, they're making the same mistakes at 30 as they were making at 19, 20, as in Kyle Walker. You know what I mean? Even though he's, you know, he can blow hot and cold. He can have an outstanding game and then just do something ridiculous. The bottom line is, when you're looking across the back, regardless of whether you play 3, 4, 5 at the back, you're looking for a steady 7, 7.5, 8 out of 10 every week. And it don't hurt. It ties in with a little theory I put out there throughout there the other day, Joe, with regards to the injuries, in inverted commas, that keep being picked up. Do you know what I mean? Injuries and, you know, the program with regards to cramming in fixtures, etc. I've got a question what's going on, because it's been going on for seasons now. I've got a question what's going on. I've got a question of the training regimes, even as far back as he's been gone a couple of years now, Wenger. And he used to pick up, I mean, is it because they worked too hard, or is it because they didn't work hard enough to build up their resilience? You know what I mean? But when you look at former day players, you know, you had squads of like 13, 14, 15, 16 maximum. They'd go for a whole season. If they had a cup run in both cups, so you're looking at like 60 games nearly, or between 50 and 60 games. The pitches were diabolical.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now, you look at it now, you've got like, they're built like, I mean, people are going, oh, well, you know, well, they're like thoroughbreds. Well, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with If they are thoroughbreds, they're not very good thoroughbreds. It might be, I don't know what thoroughbreds they are, but when you look at it now, they're built like cruiserweight boxers. They can run short distance, middle distance, long distance. They're good at everything. They do this core strengthening. They do this like stabilizing thing with regards to core strengthening and body conditioning. They've got the R&R. They've got an army of masseurs. They've got like the diet and nutrition. They've got stretching programs, etc., etc., etc. There's got to be something whereby you've got to look through your training regime and instead of keep blaming like a fixture pile up.
And they're, you know, the rules are in their favour as well in terms of protection for attacking players. You know, that you can't do what you used to be able to do in your day, John, go through the back of players and, you know, stick one on them and get away with it. And, you know, it took a lot to get a booking in your day, it seemed. Yeah,
I never did that. If you're gonna give it to him, you give it to him eye to eye. I did it once actually. I got knocked out afterwards. And that was Frank Worthington. I can't repeat on here what he called me, but then at Chelsea we had a lot of. It was always small goalkeepers, and then someone hung a ball up at the far post, about 7-8 yards out on the angle of the 6-yard box. So just a yard outside the angle of the 6-yard box. And I'm watching it. And it's what you do as a defender. It's why I can't believe all these cock-ups, because it's very simple, really. Assess the flight, communicate. So basically, you assess the flight and in one get into the line of the ball. You communicate, as in your ball, my ball, and then you basically execute the technique. And then if you're heading it away, ideally you go for height, width, and distance. But because I knew I was backpedaling, I thought if I had this back in, someone could know in our midfield, someone could walk onto this and volley it in the top corner. Right. So as I deflected it out for a corner, he's come in, everything through his elbow, done me right on the temple.
Oh God.
Yeah, because I had to whack it. So I thought I'm probably best off not whacking people from behind ever again.
Well, that's taught you a good lesson, that one, I suppose.
Yeah, they put me off for life. Yeah. Well, actually, it was a lesson, because what he was saying is, you know, if you're gonna try and anyone can play that game, son. I mean, I was only 19. I'm telling him to F off and all sorts. You know what I mean? Rolling my sleeves up. You know what I mean? I'm a cockney and all the rest of it. I'm a geezer, and like, if you want to start on me, but then he did. Yeah. So he ironed me right out. Yeah, but I still got up and went back for more. You know what I mean? It's like a pal of mine says, if you're going to take me on, you better bury me. That was my approach to it. Yeah. So it was all good fun. But you're looking you're quite right what you say. There's far fewer impact injuries. They tend to be when they're talking about all these red zones, they tend to be overuse, which is why I question the thing. And you know the other thing, while we're at it, right? And this is like, maybe someone can take something away from this. always used to do the week's training and some of the fitness, the majority of the fitness. I think you can do it, and you can wrap it around game related stuff. So if you're putting a session on that's game related, as long as it's at a good tempo, I think
you can keep fit.
Get your fitness from that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't.
yeah.
How many players do you see in the centre circle with a resistor band, or doing lunges with weights and blah? I understand the concept. Believe me, trust me, I understand the concept. But it don't quite work out like that. So if you're talking about training the muscle, all that, I've been through all that: slow twitch, fast twitch, and muscle memory, etc. Surely it makes sense to do your sessions around muscle memory, which are going to be required in games. You know what I mean? So if you're training, conditioning yourself for that, then surely it makes sense to do your session and your fitness around game related exercises. I mean,
yeah, it's a fascinating point actually, because you think of, I think I used the boxing analogy last week, but obviously boxing training is very, very good training, and there's a lot of different things that go on in boxing training, but ultimately it's about rounds, it's about sparring, it's about getting rounds under your belt before a fight, and that is essentially repetition. That is repeating what's going to happen when you get into the ring.
I've always said it, Joe. It's the only profession. It's the only profession, and the only professional sport full of professional sportsmen who think that they're the only ones who don't have to go through the repetition. Maybe the mindset's changed, but I most certainly remember when I played. I remember coaches having rows with players because they wanted to do one thing and the coach wanted to do another, and it's like anything: repetition, golf, boxing, snooker.
Yeah.
Repetition. You know what I mean? So you're training mind and body together. But it's just a theory of mine.
It's great. It's brilliant. It makes perfect sense. What was it? Gary Player said, "The more I practice, the luckier I get." Because someone said it was a lucky shot when you got hole in one or something. Quickly then, Villa lost at home. I think that's 3 games at home they've lost in a row.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Surprised. Not with that defending. I'm not surprised with that defense. Listen, what I'm going to tell you, right? You could do a simple session. They look remarkable against Arsenal, but then that's because it was they took the ball by the horns to all the forward players. So like McGinn and all that little mob, Grealish going forward, right? Ollie Watkins, Ross Barkley. Yeah, I mean they were taking the mickey out of the Arsenal. So that relieves any sort of pressure on the back forwards or back 3 or back 5, whatever system they play at the time. Well, you look at the weekend, you're looking at schoolboy defending again, and it's quite easily you could do a session 2v3. The third player, so you've got 2 defenders against 3 attackers in a grid, and then the extra player. What you do is you restrict his touches to maybe 2 touch, because you're looking to eliminate what happened with Mings, right? Now, what happened with Mings? He gets sucked into the ball, or he gets sucked into as the ball's played to the player, he's gone to close the player down. Yeah. It's been bounced off him, and then what he's done is he's been, what I used to say to youth players, don't get hypnotised by the ball, right? So he's followed the ball. That split second where you follow the ball and then it's boom in behind, and the guy's made the run. Now it's a chase. Him and another Villa defender, it's a chase to try and catch the guy before he slots past the keeper 1v1. What you do, right, you can coach a player and coach his mind, is as he closes down, if that ball is played away from you for the give and go, right, and he makes the run, you coach the player to, believe it or not, you can do it, is you slow your approach and make him play the ball, so give yourself a yard start. Or what I used to do, it's half a gamble, but you could turn away from the ball. You turn towards the player and turn away from the ball momentarily, right? And then it's just basically just to arm him off, so that if the ball does get played in behind, you've given yourself a yard and a half, 2 yards to win that race. If the guy goes across his body out the other side, lovely. Someone's done a great job for the side and bought you a bit of time. But you should never get done like that easy.
Well, it's ball watching, I suppose, isn't it? And not anticipating what potentially might happen in the head.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about it. And I suppose top players should always be thinking 1 or 2 phases ahead. I mean, going back to snooker, innit? They think about 2 or 3 shots ahead.
Yeah. Well, next year, look forward to next year, the Euros, right? If Mings is centre back against a top class, I don't know, Spanish, Italian, French, whatever, we're going to get shredded. Because I'll be honest with you, at this stage, I don't think he's anywhere near England class. I don't rate him at all.
No, I mean, what shocked me on that first goal, particularly the one that Welbeck scored, didn't he? His first goal. And that's a good sign for Brighton, I think. I'm surprised Watford let him go.
Yeah, that's the one I mean. What shocks me even more is the manager, like me, is an ex-lower division centre-back, like me, an ex-Leyton Orient captain, and his assistant, like me, is an ex-Chelsea centre-back. So he's got 2 centre-backs, as number 1 and number 2, and he's still making mistakes like that.
The 2 centre-halves were beyond the halfway line. That's what I can't remember ever seeing that. Where there was actually no one in the Aston Villa half.
That's right.
I mean, how often does that happen where defenders go beyond the halfway line? I mean, that just strikes me. I mean, if a player was in the Brighton's half, you can't be offside in your own half, can you? So it's just crazy.
Crazy. So you're talking about, it's like I said, you're talking about laying on sessions where you don't get hypnotised by the ball, you don't follow the pass, you pick off the run. Above all else, in an area like that, it's about delay. My belief, it's about delay, because you shouldn't get done like that. So whether it's you, whether it's the players in front of you, or the players at the side of you, your co-back players, or a midfield player, I thought it was just like diabolical defending, really lazy defending.
Slapdash.
Yeah. They got punished. They got well punished.
What was I going to say to you about Brighton? I mean, obviously, there was the VAR decision, which I guess could have got Villa back into the game. That was overturned by the ref. I don't know if you got any thoughts on that. But there's also sending off of Lamptey, your mate Lamptey, or who I like as well.
Yeah, I've done a thing with a CFB podcast up north in Scotland, and they said about would I give them a player to watch, one to watch. And I said to Tariq, I thought Chelsea let him go too cheap, probably tack-ons. Was he 4 million? He's a baby. I think he's 19. He looks about 15.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, but like he's got an arc the size of a dustbin lid. He's got pace. He's got fantastic football intelligence. I think he's actually. I rate him higher than the one who's at Chelsea now. The kid with the bleached dreadlocks. Because I think he mixes his runs up more when he punches it in.
It's those diagonal runs, isn't it? Yeah, the diagonal runs. Yeah.
I thought it was a bit unfortunate. He drew the foul, didn't he? Jack drew the foul. There's 2 ways of looking at it. I want to come to this quickly, right? So I've given Tariq Lamptey as one to watch. I think he could quite easily end up as an England right back. He's more than capable. I think people have got to show a bit of belief in him. Keep teaching him the game. And then as he gathers more experience and gets more games under his belt, I think he can use Brighton, all due respect, as a springboard back up to one of the bigger clubs. Yeah. I mean, if I'm like somewhere like Spurs, I'll be looking at him. You know what I mean? Or Arsenal.
Well, he's a perfect Aurier replacement.
Yeah, he is.
Against Man City.
He did, but he was due one. And I think that tells me everything when he was quoted. Jose was saying, like, whenever the ball's in our box and you're round about it, I'm on centre rocks thinking you're going to give a penalty away. You don't want to be sitting there like that. You want to hang your hat on players who, are disciplined enough, controlled enough, not to do that. I think Tariq Lamptey's got a great future ahead of him, despite the sending off Saturday, Sunday, whenever it was. But I'm looking at Brighton. I've got to be honest, Joe. I've put them down there. I think it's 3 from 5. I mean, obviously, I was mugged off big time by Southampton because of their recruitment. They got Walcott in, who notched it off. He should have scored a 1v1 apparently.
He did score.
Che Adams, I think he's been a revelation. Played really well in the absence of Ings, who I thought they relied on him too much. Right, so going forward, as in like the forward players, not the corporate expression, as in the forward players. I think they've done well, Southampton. and Ward-Prowse is playing well. So now what I've done is I've had a rethink, and I'm looking at it, I'm thinking to myself, they've all got the same problem. I made a note of it. I've got it on a set of notes over there. I made a note of it. I think there's the Fulham, West Brom, unfortunately Sheffield United, unfortunately Burnley, and Brighton, 3 from them 5, because they've all got the same problem. They bring too much pressure to bear on their back players, and there's not enough of a goal threat around about the side. None of them have got out and out. You can hang your hat on he's going to get 20 to 25 or 18 to 25 a season. And on top of that, if you've got someone who's at the lower end of the scale, he's going to get, say, 15 to 20 a season, you then need other goals from other areas. Like your centre-backs might contribute 8 to 12 goals, let's say, from set pieces. Your midfield players might contribute goals by, ghosting into the box, etc., etc. So I just think like them 5, they might, 3 from them 5 might struggle.
I mean, I love Scott Parker. He's my hero as a player, so I've probably got a bit of a soft spot for Fulham. But I think they might be slightly different in the sense that they can score goals, and they have got Mitrovic, who possibly could be a 15, 20 goal season man. He's got to hurry up.
What's the point of that? What? Oh, what's the point of them having goals in the side?
Well, what I mean is, if you look at Sheffield United, you look at West Brom, look at Burnley, they can't score. They can't score.
Right. I'm being a little bit provocative, Joe. I'll be honest with you. I made a whole page full of notes. Why in God's name, when you've got that goal, I agree with you. Why in God's name, when you've got that goal threat, when you've got like semi-decent players in the middle and attacking thirds, why would you bring pressure to bear on an ideal by, being the victim of an ideal, which I'm talking from experience, and you're trying to play out from the back, and you just 100%, 24 carat, categorically are not capable, right, of playing through the 3 thirds. And they're inducing pressure. They're bringing pressure to bear. On top of that, I'm looking at the Everton goals. It's too easy with regards to, they went from right to left. The cross went in. One went in, I think one went in 1 touch. And the other one went in two on the second touch. But they've just gone from side to side too easily. So there's no game intelligence or football IQ, right, which I've seen clubs like City and Chelsea do, where someone stops the game, right? If you think, oof, hold on, fuck me, we're going to get done here, you stop the game, you take the yellow for the side, right? Or if you're defending in terms of showing inside, which is a great strategy, right? It's all about the recovery run and coming under the ball, forcing the ball across, under the ball, forcing the ball across, under the ball. If you force it back, you've done a great job. Then you can squeeze a couple of yards, right? I'd love to show you on a training field how it's done. But the bottom line is this, right? One, Fulham don't work hard enough to prevent the ball coming into their 18-yard box, right? That means, what I mean by that is, no one's getting in anyone's face. No one's getting what we call within blocking distance, right? So the cross or the delivery comes into Fulham's box far too easily. Then, so if you do it, even if you do it on a semi-efficient basis, right, at least you're buying the people behind you, say the 2 centre-backs, the goalkeeper, the furthest full-back, maybe a recovery midfield player, you're buying them a bit of time to get set up, right? But it comes in, and it's being allowed to come in too easily, too quickly. Then you look to the next thing. Okay, can we deal with it? That's an emphatic no. So not only do Fulham foul to stop the cross on too many occasions, right? You're then looking, how do we defend in the box? And again, it's appalling. The defending in the box is appalling with regards to marking on the right side, making a decision, like assess the flight, communicate, attack the ball, and then basically get rid of it, clear it. You know what I mean? So getting that first contact. So if you're coaching a defender, you've got to get that to make first contact, and then they're very, very poor at it. I don't see any way out from.
No, I was going to put yourself in Scott Parker's position here then for a minute, because I think he's had to cobble together that back 4 because he knew he was short, and he's they haven't played a lot together. So in that scenario where you've got to try and stop goals, because you can score goals, but you've got to try and stop goals. You're off 8 games into a season. You've got a back 4 that don't know each other. What do you do first to try and stop them, or create a unit to try and stop them concede goals? Is there a quick fix, go-to that you can do? And if so, what?
Well, I'd look in front of them, so you could set up. I mean, he tries to do the thing where because to me, I've seen better in non-league. I watched him a couple of games, that Hector. And I'll be honest, I've seen better defenders in non-league. But what you can do, you can set up to protect them. So quite possibly, if you're going to play 5 at the back, you can, whether it's 4 or 5, it doesn't matter. What you've got to do, you've got to make sure that the distances between the back players are nice and compact, right? So if in an ideal scenario, you can say to the nearest defender, all I want you to worry about is getting within blocking distance of the ball and putting pressure on the ball and getting the guy's head down. And maybe my strategy would be to show him inside, because that's my personal preference in terms of defensive strategy. If you, so then it's about how you set up the second. So then your 3 centre backs are your furthest fullback if you're playing 5, right? With regards to opening your body and being better at defending crosses. Right, so if the cross does come in, you've got to cater for the worst case scenario. So then it's about not only drilling them to put more pressure on the ball, better pressure on the ball, blocking distance, getting within blocking distance and getting their head down. It's then about positioning the players and drilling them so that they're on the right side when the ball's actually coming in and they're first to the ball, making first contact on the ball, and they're marking correctly and appropriately and they're nice and compact. If you wanted to play a 4, you could set up so that the players in front of him protect him more. So if he's having a problem like he is with the amount of crosses coming in, maybe something like a 4-5-1. And then basically you're looking at the recovery runs with regards to your midfield players, screening the centre-backs, protecting the centre-backs, retreating and marking when the ball comes into the box. And also, again, very, very important, the wide players. To me, the first player is not engaging the ball well enough. When I look at the Fulham, the Everton goals against Fulham at the weekend, then they're not engaging the ball well enough.
And a lot of isolation, it seemed to me. I mean, the best teams almost defend in pairs, didn't they? Always double up, and they seem to just be, their defenders seem to be isolated a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's a combination of ingredients. One of them is, no matter where you are on the field, you should be compact.
So you parachuted into Fulham now. How long do you think it would take you to get that defence sorted out?
Well, it's for Scott, it's a work in progress, isn't it? It's whether he's going to get the time.
But was it like a month, 3 months, a week?
Well, this is what I'm saying. You know, about all the days that are quite possibly wasted on. I don't know. Like, it's all slightly contradictory because this might be one of the reasons why. There's people, not Fulham in particular, but players are pinging all over what we used to say, they're pinging all over the gaff, you know, like calves and hamstrings and blah, 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 is because the whole thing seems to me slightly contradictory. What it is you need to be, when you're footballers need to be sinewy, you understand? So, foregone no, you know, like with regards to the ground they cover, Joe, and the stretching programs they knit together. That you know, I agree with that, but I don't quite get like doing you know, power aerobics or core strengthening,
bench presses.
And bench pressing, like whatever amount, and gym session, because it shortens the muscle. So if you're gonna, if you're shortening the muscle, and then you're going out, and then you're putting pressure on it with regards to stretching and getting exploding off the mark, etc. You're going to cause yourself a problem. So with regards to what you said, in answer to what you said, I would concentrate, especially at that level. You know, anyway, right? Let me tell you something from the inside. Certain people, particularly when I played, it's a sweeping generalisation now, but certain people when I played, they were natural athletes. I didn't need to go on 7-mile runs in Richmond Park and then like do, you know, 2 800s, 4 400s, 4 200s, 4 box to box, 4 sets of doggies and a 9 aside and in, which we did for 9 months under Jeff Hurst and Bobby Gould. Right? You know, what you can do, you can say, well, what we're just going to do. Everyone's an athlete now, so we concentrate on the ball stuff. We concentrate on the organisational stuff. Why do you think he's lasted so long, Roy Hodgson? Why do you think he's lasted so long? Because what he does, he gives his team a structure, and they work on that structure. They praised him to high heaven. Well, he's only doing what any sensible coach would do, including me, Rafa Benitez. And I remember him, who's the little Welsh guy, the winger, Gobby, looking to fight everyone.
Bellamy,
that's him.
Yeah.
He said he drilled this side every day, shape every day. Well, that's when you said if he was asked me if I was parachuted in, that's what I'd do. Because you've got, and then when you get a couple of results off the back of that, if you get a couple of results off the back of that, you know, the players, it's like a snowball effect. They like, well,
they
you
believe.
know, they start believing the geezer knows what he's talking about. It's working for us. We've just got to keep at it and keep doing it. Yeah. That's what I think works so well for the likes of Sean Dyche at Burnley.
That leads me on to a nice segue to the West Ham game because it was a bit of a tight game, really. Sheffield United had a few good chances, but they couldn't score in the whatever. You know the rest of the analogy. It doesn't seem like they just seem so impotent up front, which is a related analogy, I guess. Yeah, Moyes does seem to have got the buy-in from the players now. He seems to have had his. It took him a while, but he's actually having a real impact and an influence on the team, and he's moulding the team into his own image.
I've only been saying it for about 4 years. A couple of things that I think are very important. I've been saying it for about 4 years. One is West Ham are at their best when they play at maximum tempo, right? And they start the game and they have that continuum through the game with regards to playing at a good pace. Right? So although Sheffield United had a couple of early chances, really like little bits and pieces in the box, poor contact on one of them. I think a cross came in, if I remember rightly. Anyway, what I put in my notes, Joe, I thought there was a good matchup. Both teams were a good matchup because they both started the game. They both got out the blocks. They both got out the traps, whatever expression you want to use. It was a fantastic tempo, good energy from both sides, and they matched up well. Sheffield United couldn't convert their half chances. The other thing that I've been saying for 4 years is, all due respect, it happens to all of us, and he's been a fantastic player. Noble's legs went 4 seasons ago. I think what's happened is Moyes has found a way of, I know he bought him on the sub, but he's found a way of phasing him out. And then the third key issue is, and it's a major key issue, and I don't care if anyone disagrees or not, I think I'm right, is the toxicity of the London Stadium from the support, because they're playing in front of no supporters, home and away. Right, but particularly at home, I know they've got done a cut thing, but he said he said a couple of weeks ago, Moyes, I wanted to start turning these performances into results. I think it's had a tremendous amount to do with it. I think the pressure's come right off the players. They ain't had to put up with all the demos and all the GSB out and all the walk and the march past and the singing in front of the director's box and blah blah blah. I think that you take away that toxicity, and I just think they've been allowed to express themselves. And then you look to like Moyes and his staff. I think they've gotten very well set up and organised, very well organised. They look well drilled, well organised, and what they've done is they've started to do it game in, game out, game in, game out, even without Antonio. You know, they look dangerous. They look dangerous. And I've always rated him, that Haller. I've always rated him. They shouldn't get on him. I shouldn't get on him because he don't thing and what's he doing and he's walking about and blah blah blah. He's capable of exploding one like he did in the top corner. Good goal. Yeah, don't get on his case because you don't want to run around the pitch.
As long as he scores, it doesn't matter if he don't run, does it?
It doesn't matter.
No. He's done his job. I remember Fat Ronaldo used that was his MO, wasn't it, when he was at Real Madrid? You know, he never did nothing but scored hat-tricks. So nothing you can say, really, is it?
Yeah, they're going well at the moment. So for me, they're one of the surprise packages, West Ham. Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's a ball draw, actually, Leeds Arsenal. I thought Leeds should have won the game, particularly when Pepe got sent off. What's going on at Arsenal?
Yeah, I mean,
what is going on?
Yeah, I mean, at one stage it was end-to-end, but it was more one end than the other. I think it was 19, 20, 21, 23 attempts, wasn't it? Something like 9 on target or whatever it was. Leeds, yeah. I mean, they should have converted at least one of their chances. Arsenal,
the bar and post about 3 or 4 times, didn't they?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're the woodwork. Yeah. He nearly knocked again, didn't he? Bamford, yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you, Arsenal. I mean, the novelty seems to have worn off already. I mean, I think it's a cultural thing there. The old school, that's long since gone. I just think like all this Bank of England club, establishment club, certain standards, certain...
the Arsenal way.
the Arsenal way, etc. That's gone. You know what I mean? I think they're still reeling from Wenger's in inverted commas legacy, which like I've said on numerous occasions. First of all, don't get me wrong, I liked it. I liked the style, but he was very lucky to inherit the back five that he did. He added good players. You could see they're good players from outer space. Then like the innovations off the field, it was done 30 years before he arrived there.
The French connection as well with the sort of what are they called?
Right place, right
scout
time.
base. Yeah, the scout base.
Yeah.
They won the World Cup in '98. It was kind of like
Yeah.
like I say, serendipity is to go on your phrase.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And who you knows about with regards to what's the thing like St George's Park? I forgot the name of it. The one in France.
Yeah. It's exactly that though. Well, I know exactly. I can't think the name of it off the top of my head. But Vieira and Anelka and
they all come out
Reupload and all that. Yeah.
And
Petit.
Henri.
Henri.
The main one, Henri. I mean, when you look at it in terms of what he did in his first 35, they said he's won more in 35 days than previous managers in the previous like 3.5 years, whatever it was. But now he's up again. I'll tell you what's creeping in. And what I watched, Joe, and I made a note of it. Right, you could see he was seething with the headbutt. He was absolutely living. Oh yeah, you could see that.
It's intense. He seems very intense, doesn't he? I know you liked. He seems.
That's fine.
Very intense, yeah.
That's fine. But when I look on the touchline, right, I showed that they'd done a couple of where they panned to him on the touchline. This is where he's got to be careful, and this is pot kettle territory, right? No, because
what from you?
Yeah, well, it's ironic because it's like he said, Neville. Like when you've had a chance, or in my case, it weren't a chance, but when you've had the experience of being a manager, that's as experienced as you're ever going to be. If they kill your career stone dead there, you know what I mean, like they did for me. But one of the things I've learned with the benefit of hindsight, it's about a lot of ingredients, but a couple of the ingredients are being able to manage your own frustrations and your own disappointments and your own standards. Not people not coming up to your own standards. And I'm looking at Arteta, and he's got to rein himself in from that. And I think he's
apoplectic with rage, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah. Good word. Yeah, but he when you look at it now, I'm thinking to myself, even with that forward line, they're firing blanks. So, I don't know. What's it down to?
Did you hear the stat? Did you hear the stat that Harry Maguire's had more shots on target this season than Aubameyang?
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it?
It just mind boggles.
It's absolutely frightening. Yeah. Well, I mean, some of it might be. I mean, I don't think he's had. I think they've forced his hand with regards to some of the players he's had the blood. He might have had to play them at first team level before they were ready or before their time as a consequence of injuries and or not being able to sign players. When I'm thinking in specifically in the fullback area, they've had a couple of injuries as well. I still think they'll come good. You know what I mean? So we'll see.
You mentioned it last week about you were. It was levelled at you that you was too intense, and yet intensity is now the buzzword in modern day football. But it does seem to me like Arteta is too intense. I know you've just said that, but I wonder whether can that I don't know, not so discontent, but make players a bit scared or a bit like what can we do to impress this bloke? He's always got a face like thunder. Don't matter what we do.
Yeah, it depends on the player.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the player. I mean, at the end of the day, I didn't give too much of a monkey's if I'd had a row with the manager at half time, and I had loads of them. You know what I mean? And especially at one club like Leighton Orient, Frank Clark. I mean, I was like a fucking human punch bag for the man. Man of the match again. Maybe scored, maybe a few assists. Kept another clean sheet, totally dominated the centre forward, and then he gives me a Mickey Mouse excuse like, "Put a towel around you, come in. Do you want a drink?" No, I'm all right. Then he says, "Look," he goes, "I've given it to you at half time." He said, "Because I can't give it to so and so. He signed them, by the way, but he said they'll crumble. He said, "I know your shoulders are broad enough." So he said, I'm just trying to explain to you. So some people call that good management. I call it cowardice.
I was going to say, what was your impression of that? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll call it lack of conviction in the players that you signed. Some of them he gave, in Orient terms, a small fortune for. So in answer to your question in relation to players and managers and coaches, it depends on the player. I can, you don't. The good players, good professionals, what they'll do, they'll dismiss what's gone 2 minutes before and focus on, the immediacy of the start of the game or the start of the second half.
Everything's a clean slate type thing, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got to focus on your own shit. You can't. This is where, like, to the likes of Clark, I was worth my body weight in gold because I ran on autonomy. I wasn't coach or manager reliant. You know what I mean? And the more of those around you can get, you're in business.
Self-motivator.
Yeah, and the way you play the game.
Yeah.
The way you play the game, the way you read the game, the way you approach the game, the way you play the game, the way you train during the week. He said it the other week, 2 weeks ago. Everyone's got, look at this sits, on social media. Roy Keane, when he's going on about motivating and all that, no, it comes from within, he said. It's who you are. It's where you've come from. It's what you represent. Well, I said it 25 years ago. And it's how I lived as a player.
Would you? How involved were you in signings? Because would you look at, as obviously I know you was a scout as well. So would you look at a player and think, would you be able to ascertain whether he was a self-motivator or not? Because I'd imagine that's a massive attribute to buy a player because it makes the manager's job easier.
Well, you can tell you've got like hearsay, and then you can tell. I always remember saying he said Peter Taylor. Clough's number 2, or Clough's co-manager, Clough's number 2. He said he used to look at how a player warmed up, and then he'd look at his physique, and he'd look at different aspects of the game. First of all, in answer to your question, I got the opportunity to sign one player on a free transfer from Gillingham, who I thought I could resurrect his career, and it turned out I couldn't. About a year and a half before, he was England youth material. Centre back. That was a bit of a disappointment in Orient terms, and especially in relation to just under 2 million the previous incumbent had spent. $5,000 really was you couldn't buy a decent Vauxhall Cavalier for that. And then so that was his personal thing in terms of signings. In terms of scout, Joe Royal came in and made a sweeping statement and said everybody's got to go. New broom sweeps clean. I was actually scouting for Manchester City under Jimmy Frizzell. So he would give me a player to watch and a game to go to with specific instructions to either bring back a scouting report on the team, how they set up, patterns of play, defensive strategy, set pieces, shape, or a particular player. And I signed off on 3 players. One was a 17-year-old called Frank Lampard. I went and watched him play at Highbury. West Ham got beat 3-0 by the Arsenal. And I said, maybe think about buying him now while you can get him worth the money. The rest is history. Mm-hmm. A guy called Tim Cahill, who's now working and speaking monosyllabic for the BBC. I recommended him. Everton bought him from Millwall, one of my old clubs. And then the other one was a centre-back called Arjun Dazoo. I recommended him. I think he at the time he was at Wigan, somewhere like that, or he went to Wigan. He might have. He was either at Portsmouth or Wigan anyway. I recommended him. Yeah. So they're the 3 I recommended. Yeah.
Is he Belgian or Dutch?
Belgian, yeah. He's Belgian, yeah. Long before it was fashionable to be Belgian. So I recommended him before they were. And if there's anyone who wants to come on and have a debate with me about Belgium being the number 1 in inverted commas, the number 1 team in the world, I'll tell you that's going to be a long discussion. That one, you know what I mean? Trying to make it just throwing one in random to you. This after getting beat by the Belgians the other week. Well, they are the top team in the world. No, I'm not having it. No, I'm not having it.
Right, them rankings have always been a lot of rubbish, isn't it? I mean, I think we're 4th, aren't we? It's just stupid.
Well, that confirms it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, don't quote me on that, but I think we've always been a lot higher than we should have been. Liverpool 3, Leicester 0. I actually thought Leicester would give them a real good go. I thought
I did.
I might get a result. So
Yeah, I did.
really, normal service resumed. They got
That's
squished.
right. Yeah.
They got squished.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I said. So I'm edging my bets a little bit. I did say that. I said like the last week when we done 1-0, and then before Alan and Don went away, don't worry about it. Normal service will be resumed as soon as possible. I said it'd be the usual suspects. Yeah, I was disappointed with Leicester, but I thought Liverpool handled them magnificently. It's all about when you're defending, it's about staying compact and gauging your depth. So where you want to spring from. And I thought Liverpool were fantastic. I can't have all the modern day parlance, Joe. You know, first press, second press. You know, fuck off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stop trying to baffle everybody at home with science. You know what I mean? You either press or you don't press. You either concede the ball and don't press, or you press. You understand? There's no such thing as a first press and a second press. What it is, there's a press, then there's a recovery run, right? And then what you've got immediate pressure on the next pass. So it ain't a second press; it's still the press. But what are you talking? Do you mean the first press or the second press? Yeah, and then they talk about the angle of the press. Well, people, revelation time. You either show someone inside or you show them outside. As simple as that.
It's great, John, because I think that's what jargon is, isn't it? It's people making their
jargon.
job sound more complicated than what it is. Financial services in the City of London have been doing it for donkey's years. It's like the Cockney rhyming slang. They talk in a slang so that people don't look what they're doing, and actually look underneath the bonnet and realise it's the emperor's new clothes.
You've got absolutely no idea. You've got absolutely no idea how spot on you are. With regards to,
of course,
our salaries are justified in football. Yeah, amazing.
Bullshit, basically.
I was told by an Orient director, you're too thorough, you're too deep. He said, remember, bullshit beats brains. Anyway, it turned out he was right.
Is that what he said?
Yeah. I had him, three of them in, going through how I wanted to structure the club. And build it from the bottom up and blah, 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 and talking about first-team players and who I wanted to retain, who I wanted offered new contracts, who I had my eye on to sign, what's the budget going to be, all the way from the under-11s all the way to the first team. I said, forget the thing. It's about not just short-term, but medium-term and long-term. Short-term, I've cleared up a mess and saved the club from going into liquidation, blah, 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 which I won't go over again. Because sometimes it gets on people's tits a little bit, but that's what he said. He said, just remember when we come out, we was going to the sponsors lounge, and then behind that was the office where the secretaries used to work. It was a mission to get a day's work out of, but that's another story. Just to get a cup of tea, and he just turned around and he said, remember. I went, what's that? And he said, bullshit beats brains. Always remember, bullshit beats brains.
Well, I suppose the old Greg Clark might has vouched for that with what he said at the select committee in Parliament. How do these people get to these positions of seniority in football specifically? That culture, it's worrying because it doesn't seem like it's changed.
No, that's right. He said, I mean, we're going off at a tangent slightly, but he used to say it a lot when he was on Talk Sports, Stan Collymore. I first heard it in 1985 when I joined Leyton Orient, and I spoke to a highly intelligent but seriously undermotivated physio called Bill Songhurst, and he said football is a microcosm of life, and it's a microcosm. And then I've tacked on it's a microcosm of the country, which it is. When you look throughout structurally, it's shambolic. It's shambolic. If we're talking in terms of FA money, etc., etc. It's out of our remit, Joe. We won't go there. You know what I mean?
No, it's unmeritocratic. That's what it seems like. It's cronyism and nepotism and all that sort of stuff. Which is definitely prevalent in other sections. But it's something I wanted to touch on. But I know we've got a couple games left to look at. But one of which is Burnley Palace, which was boring.
Yeah, but I'm pleased for Sean Dyche.
Yeah.
I'm pleased that they've got off the mark. I'm pleased that they had the win. I'm pleased that they've nicked the 1-0. Sorry to be a smart ass, but basically that's what I've said with regards to the 5 I've named. And I actually made a note on here. I can show it to you and I can hold it up to the screen. Played in teams like it, too often for my liking. When you're somewhere like that, you can't keep expecting Sean Dyche to perform miracles and an ongoing magic act. And two, the best you can hope for is 0-0 or 1-0. They got the 1-0. that's why it's a recipe for disaster.
Mm.
So yet again, this is my true feeling. He should go the Brendan Rodgers route, right? He should start looking at managing his career like Brendan Rodgers has, because he had disasters at fucking Watford and Reading. He had a disaster at Liverpool. He snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, right? With regards to running away with the league, right? He resurrected his career at Celtic, uses Celtic as a stepping stone, somewhere where it's at best a 2-horse race, and then he's come back
not
down.
At the time, it was a 1-horse race.
At the time, it was a 1-horse. I said, but I did say, if you listen to what I'm saying, I said at best it's a 2-horse race. That was before Rangers went up, right? Come up again, right? But Sean Dyche has now got to start managing his career. And I admire him, and there's a tremendous amount to be said, and we're a dying breed with regards to loyalty. But what he's got to do now, he's got to look at like a mid-echelon club to see whether he can take them into the Europa League. And I always fancied him at somewhere like West Ham. That's if he can have carte blanche, you know, with regards to running the gaff and top to bottom and transfers and all that. I'm led to believe that the manager don't always sign off on the transfers over there. But a club of a similar ilk, no disrespect to Burnley, he cannot keep being expected to perform miracles.
Do you think that is just loyalty, or do you think it's a little bit of not wanting to step out your comfort zone and start from scratch again?
Yeah, 100%. You're spot on. Yeah, you've touched a nerve there, because that's one of the things. I'll look around and you look at it, and when you feel like I did at the time, some people would beg to differ, but like I did at the time, I'd been at a club, overall one particular club for 10 years, and I felt that I knew the club from top to bottom, inside out, and I felt above all else comfortable. I felt comfortable there. I felt like I could build something. I felt I could. Certain people led me to believe that they would put their trust in me. And I thought it was a well played, and the way it pans out, it don't work out like that.
Things change.
It don't work out like that. Yeah, things change.
Yeah.
And that's what I think he's got to be wary of. You know what I mean? And I think he's got to be prepared to do it. But listen, if it's not the end of the world, there's thousands before, and there'll be hundreds and maybe even thousands after. If he went like Eddie Howe did. From Bournemouth to Burnley and failed. If he went to another club, Sean Dyche, talking of him in particular, and failed, it's not the end of the world. It's just how he manages the failure. Like Brendan Rodgers. You know what I mean?
Brendan Rodgers is borderline arrogant, and again, a good way, but he's very self-confident. It's funny because Eddie Howe was on Monday Night Football last night, and it's the first time I've really heard him talk in a non-kind of media bullshit way. And he is obviously knowledgeable about the game, but he actually, for me, my view on it was, he actually lacks presence. He lacks that sort of ego and fuck me, I really want to play for this bloke. And I mean, I presume now he wants to be back on the merry-go-round and get another job, and I'm sure he will. But it did make me realise I can understand why he stayed at Bournemouth so long, because he was obviously happy there, and he knew the club inside out, and he got his fingers burnt at Burnley. So, and I worry actually. I would say he might struggle with the next job. He doesn't seem self-confident enough.
Yeah. Now what he's got to do, I think me personally, if I was advising him, I'd say look to a club that's maybe potentially a massive club or a Premier League club that's struggling big time. So you're looking, and they've got a good fan base. So somewhere like a Birmingham or a Sheffield Wednesday, and then you can go in there and you can set the tone, and you could say, well, I want carte blanche, which is what he had at Bournemouth. Trust me, give me carte blanche, and then if he falls flat on his face, then it's down to him. Then it's about how you handle the failure. I didn't handle it very well, obviously. You know what I mean? In terms of advice, PR, mentoring, highlighting the positives that I did, like saving relegation the year before, and then clearing a £500,000 debt. They were all positives. You know, stopping a club going into liquidation, they were positives. You know what I mean? People just looked at the tantrums. So if I was advising people now, I'd say in Eddie Howe's case, they were talking. I mean, I can't believe Don said it. He was saying about potential England manager. No chance. He might fit the bill in terms of media. You know, handsome boy, handsome man, speaks well, got a suburban accent. But other than that, I think you're bang on. no presence. And at the end of the day, what's he done? What's he done? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One relegate, one was it the thing with one promotion, one relegation, one promotion, one relegation. So 2 and 2, isn't it? Or is it 1 and 1? I don't know. But the bottom line is, if you're looking at the top end of the game, that's where you've got to try and pluck someone from in terms of being the next England manager.
Yeah, I think the best piece of advice that anyone's ever given me, and it wasn't actually in a football sense, because I didn't play football to any level, but it was just in a work sense, and it was a manager, and he said to me, as soon as you start feeling comfortable, it's time to start feeling uncomfortable again. Never feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Because if you feel comfortable, you're not pushing yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I suppose you could say, if a manager sticks around too long at a club,
yeah,
is he pushing himself? Is he as good as we think? But anyway, Wolves 1, Southampton 1. Who finishes higher, Wolves or Southampton? That's a good question.
It's a killer.
That's a killer.
Joe, five weeks ago, I had Southampton to go down.
Southampton then.
Yeah. I don't know whether it's like blind loyalty and bias. I'd say Wolves again. I actually, if Frank hadn't got he got a fourth in the cup final last year, I thought he exceeded all expectations. I thought Frank Lampard did marvellous last year, and he's doing marvellous again this year. And fair play to him, he's doing a magnificent job. But if he never got it, I wanted Nuno to get the Chelsea job. So I thought he would, fit in terms of just like the passion, the energy, the disposition, the way he comes across, and innovative tactics. I thought he would have a little bit showbiz. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's done a good job. I think it's overlooked at how well the Portuguese agents helped him out there. Yeah, he sucked some players out of Portuguese league for him, and decent players at that. Yeah, particularly when they were in the Championship. Yeah. I mean, Neves, played top level in Portugal, played for Portugal, going to the Championship. That's a coup to put it. And they've signed that Silva, haven't they? He's only 19. He's only played 4 games, I think. But
they got a nice few quid back as well, didn't they? We're from is it, how do you pronounce it? Jota? The one that
Jota. Yeah. Well, actually, that was one of my questions earlier. I didn't ask it. Does he start in front of Firmino now when Salah's back? Jota.
It probably bought him with regards to that being the eventuality, because he's so young. Yeah. So at the moment, I would say that there's a pecking order that he's earned it, Firmino, but he's one of them. He could be one of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's about what it is, Joe. When you look at, when you read and when you listen, and when you engage and when you watch and absorb information across the years, I always remember things like how good he was in the transfer market. Someone like George Graham, he would buy someone just approaching the summit, so just short of the summit of being who they could be, and in terms of their career, and then he'd make them better, and then he'd get, so like say on a scale of 1 to 10, he'd buy them at maybe they were getting sort of 6.5, and then he'd turn them into a 9.5, and they'd maybe achieve something along the way, and then just as they got to the summit, he'd sell them and cash in on them at just the right time. And I think that's that. Jota maybe that's the category he falls into. So he's buying a slightly maybe a case of potential. Yeah. Firmino's earned the pecking order at the moment, and then I think there'll come a time when they'll maybe cash in a few quid, get a few shekels for him.
All right. Right, we get to the stage now where I know we haven't got much. Well, we can talk all night. I know we can, but we might as well get to the final stage of the podcast, which is the part of the podcast where I ask you questions. I just want to ask you, John. Hope you don't mind.
No, I don't mind. Can I just intercede, Dev? One thing. It tickles me our Jose's trying to play everything down. We're not. You can't expect us to come here within a year after what's gone on before. So basically, he's highlighting Pochettino's failure. Five years there without winning a trophy, in a slightly veiled agenda way, and then at the same time, he's almost dismissing Spurs in the public eye and with regards to his opponents and with regards to coming up against Chelsea this week.
Oh yeah, did you hear that? Yeah.
He's almost dismissing already the fact that within a year we can't go from where we were to potential champions. It's not. He said we're just taking it a game at a time. So it's a bit. I just wanted to highlight that just so that everyone knows, especially as I was like a young Chelsea player over the years. You tend to accumulate a little bit of experience. And at the time, I was at one of the sort of best clubs in the world for educating youngsters.
But he's got a degree in psychology, and
is he?
Yeah, and I think I think that game's so 50-50 Tottenham Chelsea. I know Chelsea are at home. I think it comes down to the managers, and I think Mourinho is obviously a better manager than Lampard at the minute, and I think he'll school him tactically. But
we'll see.
We shall see.
I'll have a cheeky tenner with you.
All right, that's fine. What?
More money's on Frank and his staff and his players.
Draw no bet, or do I get a draw because it sits down for Bridge?
No, you're not having a draw. No. No. Draw's no bet.
Draw no bet.
No bet. You just listen. You just said to me. Right, you just said to me, right, and everybody's witnessing who watches this. You just said that Jose will school Frank Lampard tactically.
Yeah, right? Getting a draw might be, that's a good result for Spurs.
You've got more front than Arrows. Fucking asking for the draw. Let me tell you. We'll see. We'll see. Right, I'll tell you what it could be. It could be. I'll tell you, if you're going to have a bet on a red card. That's what I think. I think it could be another battle of Stamford Bridge.
Stamford Bridge, yeah.
Yeah, especially like some of the things they've got playing, some of the Muppets they've got playing and everything in the Spurs backline. Don't worry about that. There'll be some proper tackles going. But I just think in the vital areas, I just think Chelsea have got slightly better players. The obvious danger for Spurs is Harry, Son. It depends how they set up.
Best forward line in the world, arguably. Spurs,
you reckon?
Yeah. Arguably.
He'll get on. Yeah, I bet he plays Bell. I bet he plays him.